Mrs. Dorsett, thanks for coming on the show. Let's start with your background, which is in physical therapy.
Yeah. So I had a back injury when I was around 18 years old, and it kind of turned into a chronic thing and was pretty difficult for at least a year thereafter. And I went to physical therapy, and I had already been interested in professions that were more focused on movement, had a lot of one-on-one relational aspects, education, and so it just kind of all fell into place and it made sense, and I decided to go to PTA school soon after that, and it was just a really nice quick road to what I wanted to do. And I had gotten married young, and so worked at College Park Physical Therapy through marriage, pregnancy, and the first year of my son's life. And then um, that was really where I built a love for a lot of the things I would call like my niche now is prenatal, postpartum, corrective exercise. Looking at the whole person, just how we breathe, how we move. There's different social things and cultural things that we bring to the table in terms of how we perceive pain and um,
Hmm.
how we carry ourselves, and what type of whether movement is natural to us or whether we have to work a little harder to do that. So
Hmm. So the back injury, how did that happen?
that was a little embarrassing. I was in a dance class. We were actually at a performance, and this was a hip hop class. Fun fact, my husband and I, before we started dating, were in this adult hip hop class at KOMA, and those were fun memories. And we were at a performance, and I did essentially, it was like a back handspring from my gymnastics days, but it was supposed to not be quite that way, but it ended up being like a back handspring because it was a fast paced performance. It was just supposed someone was supposed to kinda spot me and help me over it. Anyway, I got through it fine, but gosh, after that, I was in a lot of pain, and I essentially sprained, and strained the muscles, sprained the, things around my spinal, things
Mhm.
around L4, L5. So, it
Mm,
was tough for
How's
a
the
while.
disc? Was the disc fine?
The discs were fine,
You're
thankfully.
lucky.
Mhm.
So when I was 17, I think it was 17, 18, I started getting a lot of that back pain too. And I high jumped. I did a lot of played a lot of basketball, but I think the over inflection of the spine. And then my genetics, my father has got degenerative
Mhm.
disease. My mom does too. So then I ended up finding out I ruptured L5S1.
Mhm.
Back pain, especially when it's related to nerve pain, is horrible. I mean, absolutely horrible. And you'd think I'd learn, but then, I would get better and then I would do a backflip kick and break a board above my head. And, a couple times I'd keep doing it, it's fine. And then there's that one time I'll never
Mhm.
forget, and it
Oh,
just went
man.
it's like an explosion in your back, and it was L5S1, and then I ended up getting discectomy, which I wish I did not do,
Mm.
because I think the body can heal itself if you give it time and you do the right things. So, I am right there with you on the back pain. So what are some of the most common issues you see in kids when it comes to posture, strength, and body awareness?
I see kids really have very little awareness of it at all. They don't always even know where their body is in space, what we call proprioception, like this awareness or how we perceive where our body is in space, how we move it, how hard we or fast we need to move it to do what we need to do, or kids that desire that, like that sensory, they're seeking that sensory input. They're swinging their body around like crazy and have no idea that they're, whacking someone upside the head, with their
Mhm.
arms. So kind of just finding that awareness, being coordinated enough to control it. And in terms of posture, knowing where our head is, where our ribs are, where our pelvis is, I think a lot of that comes from when we are infants. There's a lot of movements that need to happen to take us to the next movement. We go from rolling, sitting, crawling, just finding upright posture has a lot of steps to it. And so sometimes if we don't have really good unrestricted movement, or we don't utilize those movements well as an infant, opportunities for them, crawling, things like that, then we tend to see kids with very poor awareness of, or even the ability to, move their head without their whole body moving back, or the ability to, um, like a kid who's on their bike and they go to turn their head and they take their handlebars with them. That there's more research coming out about, and in the last 5 or 10 years, they're kind of, how it takes 17 years or so for research we've done to kind of catch up with what we're doing now.
Mm.
So, I mean, there's more research kind of on what we call reflex integration and how we can just make good mental maps and reconnect these neural pathways that maybe we haven't coordinated well in the past. So, a kid who's doing that, the ATNR is kind of like this, which connects so much to a lot of the positions you guys are doing here.
Mm.
But that's something that kids need to be able to separate those for eye tracking, lateralization, things that happen in the brain, right, left brain, looking at their desk, looking at the board, looking at the desk, not losing their spot between that. So there's a lot that happens. These movements when they're young are so important. And then you got kids, starting school and are having all of this trouble. And so I think movement is the key, and movement starting really young. So being able to separate that out where, well, I can turn my head without bending my elbow and turning everything with it. You could call it poor coordination. Some people will say, oh, that's, primitive reflex integration. Some, you can call it whatever you want it, but movement, I think, is the key.
So you think a lot of kids, for example, are when they turn their head, they turn their body with it, with their
Well,
head?
like on a bike is a typical, there's a lot going on. The brain has trouble
Yeah.
focusing. So when you put them in a position where there's different tests, you put them in hands and knees and you turn their head real quickly and see if their elbows bend. It's like, oh, that actually shouldn't happen. But no, if you just have them, oh, look over here, you're not going to see an immediate movement. But something challenging, like they're on their bike or they're having to sit still and look up and down and, wow, I lost my place. Um,
Hmm.
there's just different impacts that you'll see with that. But
So you want a separation of, you want the head to independently move from the body separately?
and the eye tracking has a lot to do with that movement in particular.
Hmm.
But that's just one example of it. Is a lot of kids, they're first learning and they're just, it's hard to separate those movements.
It's
Sometimes
interesting
that's, yeah.
because whenever we're doing our forms in class, one of the principles that I'm always trying to teach them is if you're turning in whatever direction, you start with your head. You
Mhm.
look first,
Mhm.
right? But a lot of times, students will move their whole body as one unit, like a robot. And
Mhm.
I'm thinking, and I always make this example. If you're going around a corner, you don't stop and then turn your body and then your head at the same time. No, you
Right.
look first.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because that's what we actually work on
Yeah.
a lot, even with adults, because it's like when they start doing these forms, they become like almost robotic.
Yeah.
But why do you think, even like specifically today, why does youth have these issues?
I think in our fast paced culture, things have just shifted. I mean, kids aren't moving as much. They aren't outside pulling and pushing and
Mhm, mhm.
working and digging. And I mean, like for fun, you know what I mean? Play is the work of the child, is what they say, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a big part of it. I think we're sitting a lot, driving a lot. Kids are, I mean, even from infancy, kids are in car seats, baby carriers, swings, door jumpers. I mean, there's just so many containers. There are a lot of people that think that a lot of these issues, they even think that autism spectrum, ADHD, has a lot to do with what's happening in the brains of our babies as infants with limited movement, because it relates to that, to eye tracking, to focus, to um, all of these things essentially, that socially and emotionally there's effects of what our body isn't doing neurologically with movement. So that's one thing,
Mhm.
to look into. Um, but I think movement just is limited. Screens, sitting a lot. Um, and then, yeah, in infancy, lots of containers. It's when you're busy and you're on the go, you're just moving the baby from here to here to here. So I think lots of time on the floor. Like you were talking about kids moving as a whole. I think one movement that's so good is just rolling, learning how to roll segmentally, turning one part of your body, then the other, then the other. It's just like brings awareness
Hmm.
because I just think kids don't have a very good awareness of the different body parts and how they can coordinate them together until they start moving and it wakes everything up.
So we're basically transporting our babies and kids in different containers.
That's what it feels like sometimes.
It's like
Well,
a
see,
like
I
a like a
mean,
puppy.
yeah, I mean, it's tough, and they need that. They need to sleep and they need to this and you need to get them in the car. And then, I mean, I'm about to have my third. I've lived it. It's tough, but just trying to get the baby out on the ground, letting them
Mm,
move around, starting that early can be a great help because as they move through this kind of reflex ladder, they move from one to the next. They do the landau and they're arching like Superman, that gets these
yeah.
extensor muscles working. Well, the more they do it, the more that integrates quickly so they can move to that next one and get them crawling. You want to ideally have multiple months of crawling before they start pulling up and walking. If you can, it helps so much with that left right brain and just coordination of all of these things we're talking about.
What do you think of those? I can't remember what they're called, but basically it's like a little apparatus where you put the baby in it. Their legs are dangling, and they have a little tray in front, and there's
Hmm.
wheels underneath, and they can walk and run, like move around on
When
those
they're
things.
actually walking in them, I
Yeah,
don't love those
yeah. That's I.
because
Research shows that you should not use those.
yes, they can't. Okay, some of those are used like you just got to set the baby somewhere and they'll put them there and their legs
Yeah.
aren't long enough and they're just hanging, it's bad for their hips. But in general, with those, the concern in the PT world is they are not seeing the space around them. They're seeing the
Mhm.
tray. There's very little connection to what they're doing. It won't necessarily help them walk. It doesn't help them learn that skill.
Mm.
So,
It's kind of a crutch. And like you said, they're walking without getting any sort of sensory input
right.
from, seeing where they're going
Yeah.
and what their legs are doing and all that stuff.
Right. Not
Uh,
to say that no contain I mean, you can't just have your kid wandering the house when you need him to be
you know,
contained, that's okay, but
put them in the
but
cage.
something else maybe.
We used to have we have twins, and we literally like walled off our entire living room.
You gotta do
I
it
remember
sometimes.
those days just because, if I'm working, my wife has to cook, then it's like you gotta wall them in,
Yeah,
right?
you
And we
gotta do
had
it.
no, the other one I think we used, probably shouldn't have used, is like the bouncing thing.
Mhm,
What do
in
you
the
think about
doorway
those?
jumpers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the PT world, they're mixed on that. Most people will say try to avoid them if you can, just, but everything in moderation, right?
Yeah. Don't keep them in it all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little bit here and there. Um, what are some common barriers adults face when trying to get back into movement or exercise?
Man, I think again, busyness is a huge one. I mean, I know with myself, I love movement. I know the benefits. I could go and tell someone, man, you have got to get moving. And it's really tough when you're not sleeping through the night. You have young kids. You get up and the first things you need to do are a list of 10 things that maybe don't serve you. They're, others focused, their needs that you're meeting, and that it just kind of passes you by. You miss your chance or
Mhm.
whatever, so you really have to figure out what's important to you and prioritize it. Um, so I mean, that's just tough in and of itself. But I think stress, I think people think, I don't have time, I don't know what movement to do. Well, my knee hurts sometimes and maybe I'm damaging it. Well, I don't really have a good space to do it. I don't have a good gym or I don't have the money for this or I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's kind of a perfectionistic view of, well, I need to do something really well. And, you know, a walk is just a free, great way to get moving that has benefits to I mean, even your immune system, your digestion, they've found. You can lower your response to high glycemic foods by
Yep.
doing squats and calf raises after meals. I mean, it can be so simple. But there are a lot of barriers. And I think pain is the other one. I think people have a lot of history of injuries. They don't know what's safe. They're not sure if their form looks good. They don't feel confident and they don't always love the movement they're trying to do. Maybe they're trying to keep up with something else that they don't really love, and they haven't really had time to explore what they feel refreshed by.
Yeah. I'm wearing a CGM now,
Mhm.
and I've seen a huge difference if I walk after I eat, or even do what I call I can't remember what I called it, kind of the KOMA little post meal workout. And it's like 30 jumping jacks and then 20 high knees and 10 burpees.
Nice.
And you're tired. I actually had Mrs. Gilroy, who's behind the camera. She was over with her husband for dinner, and we all did it together.
That's
But
great.
I mean, studies show it makes a huge difference to help with releasing the glycogen in your muscles, so then you
Uh-huh.
have more space for the new glycogen to be formed or to be stored from the carbs, the
Have you been able
glucose.
to see what your numbers go like how many points that goes down when you do that?
Oh, I would say 20.
That's so cool.
10 to 20, at least 10, at least 10. Yeah. But going back to the whole injury topic, so I tore my ACL when I was, it's funny as I speak out loud about this stuff, I was just so clumsy and stupid. But I tore my ACL at 19 years old. And then I had the patella tendon replacement. So it's been a long time now. And I've had pain with the meniscus that was also
Mhm.
removed. So probably arthritis in there. And there's times I don't want to do anything because it hurts, right? But I think there's this downward spiral if you have that mentality. Because in order for you to repair, or in order for you to make it better, you got to move it.
It's so tough.
It's
It's such a catch-22.
Yeah.
That's why I think having someone walk through, what is safe, what's not, what type of feelings are okay to work through, what's
Mhm.
not. People will come in when I was working in outpatient, and I saw so many people with knees, back, shoulders, neck, migraines, ankles. I mean, every part of our body, it's just so easy to have injuries that then also kind of chain reaction build up. Oh, well, my ankle when I was this age, and now my hip, and I think it can all kind of be connected. But where was I going with that?
Have you heard of Knees Over Toes guy?
Yes.
He changed my life. Free YouTube
Yeah.
videos.
That's awesome.
Because, like I said, I had the pain in my knee.
Yeah.
I had, oh my gosh, back pain like crazy. And I just felt helpless.
Yeah.
So the thing with me specifically, and I guarantee you this applies to a lot of older people too, not that I'm old, but getting there, is the importance of movement.
Yeah.
Especially with arthritic conditions like my back, which has basically no disc in L5S1 because all I
Right.
did is remove it. Didn't replace with any artificial disc. And then my knee. But then I've always been brought up to, for example, squat down and then stop when your knee
Your
starts
knees
to
go
go.
over your
Yeah,
ankle.
you don't
Yeah.
go past your foot.
Right.
But then the knees over toes concept is no, you have to train in the fullest range of motion and strengthen down there because that's where life happens.
Definitely.
So
And with
picking
your
up your
patella
baby
tendon,
yes.
that's exactly what would have been stretched and strained, which may have hurt at some point, but then rebuilding.
Yeah. So I started doing those exercises. It's very simple, just very like assisted kind of a split squat where you
Mhm.
have your foot elevated and then you're basically pushing your knee all the way down to your hamstring, when your hamstring meets the calf,
Mhm.
and then you come back up. And I was just doing these, very light exercises. And now I'm playing 2 to 3 hours of basketball every week, and I'm able to do it with no pain.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I think the body has a bigger potential for healing than we think. I think we were talking about negative language, like the nocebo effect, so to speak. When we tell someone, hey, your knees are bone on bone, you need to stop running.
Right.
Well, what about, that middle-aged man who loves to run? That's really where he clears his mind. It's the only exercises he's ever loved.
Yeah.
And now he feels like, well, what can I do? Should I do anything? Am I damaging them more? Well, maybe that crackling I hear is actually making it, we start to think about all these little things, the noises we hear, how it feels, thinking we're worsening it. There were a lot of studies done on asymptomatic individuals. They took MRIs of people who had no pain at all. And specifically with the hips, they found about 60% of those people with no pain had issues with their hip labrum, issues being visibly on the MRI. Oh, there's a tear here or there's a whatever. It really kind of makes us think, is an MRI really good diagnostic criteria for then prescribing function?
Mhm.
Should we take that and say, oh, well, because this is bone on bone, that is the exact cause of your pain? Or maybe should we look at some of those biomechanical
Mm.
things, like the knees over toes thing? One reason that helps so much is you're training your ankle actually to have really good flexibility, dorsiflexion. And that flexibility sets the stage for your knee to not have so much stress with every other task. Stairs, running, squats, lunges. If we have really good ankle mobility, if we have good toe off with our gait, we're going to just have a happier knees and hips. And so I think there's a lot of benefit to figuring out, okay, well, what can you do? What hurts? What does it look like? Let's look at your gait. Let's look at your footwear. Let's watch your running. Do you run on treadmill? Do you run uphill? Do you run on let's assess all of that.
Mhm.
And a good PT will help you get there because you want to be able to keep with what you were doing. Ideally, you keep doing what you're doing and let's just get you pain free rather than maybe being told, hey, you have degenerative disc disease in your neck and you need to stop all your Pilates classes. Well, what if that's a widow who just started finding her community?
Yeah.
And that's really for her whole person, patient-centric care, that would be probably not the best yes for her
Mm.
to stop that. So let's work with people and get them being able to move.
So the crackling in the knee, true or false? It only matters if it hurts.
For the most part, crackling, called crepitus, does not indicate any damage being done whatsoever. It's just a noisy, it's
It's just
not,
air, isn't
yeah.
it?
So it's not problematic. People should not be concerned. Now, if they are dealing with, I have a meniscus tear and my knee hurts so bad and I have arthritis and every time I hear the crackling, it scares me and I'm going up and down the stairs and it hurts and yeah, see a PT, get moving. They say motion is lotion, like you were talking about.
Mhm.
Movement for the
Yes,
discs.
yes.
We're dehydrated. We wake up in the morning. They say we're actually shorter when we first wake up in the morning. We need those discs kind of
I didn't think
inflate
about that.
slightly as we
Hmm.
get hydrated and we get moving.
I always
So,
joke, I wake up and I'm 80 years old.
yeah,
And then as the day progresses, I actually become my age.
yeah.
Because my back is so tight in the morning and I have my whole routine. But going back to also what helped, if anybody's listening, if you have back pain, it's the hip flexors. My hip flexor, especially my left one, because that's where I get my pain, was so tight. I'd get a lot of SI joint pain,
Mhm.
lower back pain. And as soon as I started in those split squats where you're really stretching out that hip
Mhm.
flexor, it went away.
Yeah,
It was
because you don't have
unbelievable.
this competing strain. The psoas muscle is so interesting because it connects at the front of your ilium inside that kind of clamshell shaped bone. And then it crosses to the back and connects at like T12
Mhm.
and lower in the lumbar. But there's a huge fascial chain of all this tissue that is where it connects. And it connects there where the diaphragm connects too. And we have found that breathing is essentially, this is kind of where I got my start with all of this breathing stuff was when I went delving into the prenatal and postpartum stuff after an unexpected C-section I had, things like that. I just got so fired up about it. So the diaphragm and the pelvic floor work like a piston, and we need the ribs stacked over the pelvis.
Mhm. Mhm.
The diaphragm, when we inhale, should drop down and the pelvic floor drops down with it, male and female. And then you exhale and it comes up. So it's like a really nice system, pressure management system. And we should be utilizing that. Most people think that good posture should be this really chest up and then shoulders back, which there's an element there, but then our breath goes up and it's like the stress breath.
Mhm.
We're using all of our neck. So really what we want is ribs over pelvis, which
Yeah.
does keep us upright. But, with all of that stacked, we should have a nice diaphragm pelvic floor connection. And that should also bring relief to the hip flexors because otherwise we have this strain. The hip flexors are pulling us forward. They're so tight, but we know we shouldn't be standing like this. So we compensate somehow. And usually our lower back's fighting us too. And so we have this constant muscle tension. And then you you don't breathe well, you don't know how to breathe well through your diaphragm, you're either belly breathing or shoulder breathing, and then you go to pick up a pen you dropped on the floor and your back goes out, and you're
Yeah.
on the couch for 3 days.
That's what happened. I actually ruptured L4, L5 2 years ago. And guess what I was doing? Nothing. I woke up in the morning and I'm walking around getting ready to go play a round of golf. And all of a sudden it just hit me. And it felt like a hot rod was inserted in my entire leg.
It's the worst.
And I couldn't do anything about it. I actually had to get an epidural just to get the pain down.
Yeah.
That was my moment where I'm like, I got to change what I'm doing. Because I was just go, 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 no mobility focus, no focus on mobility, no focus on stretching, flexibility, all that stuff. Just kind of stay active. But I always say the best, most effective way to change behavior is what? Pain. Is only through pain. I mean, that's how God does it with us too, right? That's how our faith is strengthened. Oh my goodness, is that pain. And you never forget the pain. You never forget that moment, because when you start going back to your old ways, you remember that pain. You don't remember the good times. You remember the pain.
Right.
So after that was kind of when I started to shift. But yeah, okay. Going back to the topic you just were on, which is kind of the stacking. So I feel like a lot of people have is it a forward tilted pelvis?
Like this.
Yes. Yeah. Overarching in the back.
That gets talked about more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think that's when I went to physical therapy for my back, it was all about the forward tilt pelvis. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we see that a lot. It's tough to know. Sometimes in our profession, it's easy to hyper focus on some things. There were these stages of, okay, well, now we're really into let's tighten our lower transverse ab and keep it tight all the time.
That's what.
Okay, now we're really into the hip flexor. Is it tight or is it weak?
Yeah.
Let's figure it out. Okay, now we're really into, ankle mobility. It's the cure for everything. I mean, we jump around just like anybody else. But I think the pelvis matters a lot. But I think the ribs and the pelvis connection matters more. You might think someone has a really anterior pelvis, but a lot of times what happens is they actually are shifting their ribs way up. And if you look close, really what might be a better fix is lengthening from the back. Imagining, a string, bringing your sternum down slightly, taking a deep breath and see if you can feel your breath in through your back ribs, like a 360 breath moving all the way around. If you can feel your breath through your back, you're probably in a better spot. You might not have had to actually change too much at the pelvis. Maybe it just depends on the person. But yes, hip flexor tightness, pulling the pelvis really anterior does happen. And I think what happens then in my situation, I notice this is true. It's really easy for the femur in your hip you have so much muscle tightness around it. It's just kind of locked. And then you go to squat, and this actually needs to drop down into the, back of the socket and inferiorly to be able to squat. And so if you're just kind of locked up here, you go to squat and you just kind of get pinching in the front of your hip, or you feel limited, or maybe your whole body shifts forward to get there. You can't actually sit back and get the glutes back. And so there's a lot that happens mechanically at the hip that should be, we should address tightness and weakness there. And it might be all hip flexors, and it might be actually the back pocket muscles of the glute. Where those are tight, they're not letting the hip drop down. So there's a lot that can happen. But
how weak are the glutes of America?
So weak. They are so weak.
Because all we do is sit on them.
Yes. And do you know what? The whole thing of like when you squat, just push through your heels.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are just getting their hamstrings, and then
right.
They're trying to keep so upright. They're getting no glutes with their squats.
Yes. And that's the I think that's a huge problem with just overall physical condition with adults and people. If you look at the kind of tribal people, and they walk everywhere, they're barefoot and all that stuff, their glutes are so developed.
Yeah.
And guess what? They have no back pain there.
Yeah.
They have no problems with their back pain. They're sitting in a super deep squatted position. I call it the Asian squat because my stepmom, I remember I used to watch her. She'd literally be sitting almost butt to floor, feet flat, right? And just making kimchi. for like an hour. I'm like, how do you stay down there like that? But I feel like that is a huge missing piece in the Western culture is we never go past the chair.
Mhm.
Guess what happened to our hip mobility?
Right, of
It-
course.
It's
Yeah,
non-existent.
yeah.
So I think just even getting adults to slowly start sitting lower and lower and lower. And the other thing too is I saw this documentary about these tribal people, these people in tribes. They would be sitting all day and they're like, how are they so ripped? How are they so like in shape? You try to sit in a squat position all day.
You're actually using a lot of
burning
muscles.
calories and you're
Yeah.
strengthening your muscles. So I'm always trying to force myself if I'm on the computer, I'll just get in that deep squat and try to see how long I can go. But these are easy things that parents can do now is just keep working on that.
Mhm.
Maybe you can't do that now. That's why you have to get assisted and then you slowly get into it, see what you can do. Never work through pain, right? Never push through pain at
Right,
least.
right.
But ease into it because that's what I had to do with my knee and my back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one of the main reasons that people find themselves unable to, when they're in their old age and they need to be transferred to some sort of assisted living, the number one reason is inability to essentially get up and down off the toilet well themselves or
Right.
safely. So if you think about that, I mean, that's a pretty normal chair height. You can work on that. You can easily maintain that one strength area. Obviously the deeper range, but as people get older and they're unable to sit to stand their own body weight, that's something that really preventatively we could work on. And that's why I think it's so great if we can view therapies and movements as preventative and wellness and health. I mean, you know, obviously people know, oh, that would be good for me to do that, but there's so many crucial reasons why.
Mm. So what do you think? Lower or upper body strength training? If you had to choose one, what would it be?
Like preference or just in general because what people need the most?
What people need the most?
That is tough.
I would say lower. And the reason why is exactly what you just brought up. You don't fall over because you have really strong quads.
Mhm.
You fall over because you're weak down low,
Yeah.
right? If you're a little weaker up top, but you're super strong below,
Mhm.
right? I think you're gonna have a less chance of falling and breaking your hip. And that's where kind of the elderly
Definitely.
go really downhill fast.
Balance as well.
But the
balance
thing is,
coordination.
it's like, especially with dads, we just want to have big arms.
It's true. I mean, the
And
amount
you
of
got these
guys I
little
see at
chicken
the
legs.
gym doing
Yes.
like shoulder shrugs, just trying to build their upper traps, which by the way is not a functional exercise. You know, I'm like, you know, man, you could be doing something compound with
Yeah.
some barbells. Like,
Yeah.
so I prefer lower body for myself. I tend to sometimes neglect the some upper body muscles,
Yeah.
but it's because it's harder to build the right postural muscles. It's pretty easy to do a bicep curl. I think people do default towards building their arms. But
Because it's all vanity, right? It's all vanity. But in reality, again, you got to focus on the lower body. In my opinion, you got to focus on the lower body for longevity, right? And especially for mobility and transporting your body from point A to point B, you're not running around your arm on your hands. You're on your legs. So
I agree, and I think that it makes people feel stronger when they notice and they start to train in a way that focuses on lower body. You really get better mechanics, and then you might be hauling your hose around the backyard or, doing mulch or something. You're just going to have a better carryover to good mechanics, which will actually set you up for better mechanics with your arms and shoulders versus people who are weak throughout their moving muscles, lower body muscles. You're going to find like just having poor mechanics. You're trying to get the mulch out and you don't have that good like squat lift movement in mind. And you're hauling the hose and you're just doing your best versus you're used to pulling and using your legs with it. So
yeah. Yeah. So why, going back to the glutes, why are those muscles so important to stay strong at least?
they're such a huge mover. They really are where I think, can prevent a lot of back pain and a lot of knee pain. So when we see athletes, ACL to just ankle sprain to, I mean, anything, we always are looking, and maybe it's their knee, maybe it's their ankle, and they're like, why are you looking at my hips so much? Well, the hips are really, really important for even just what's happening especially for girls, what's happening at the angle from their hips to their knees. It's a greater angle, and
Hmm.
there's more impact on the knees unless they have really strong hips. So it's all interconnected, but the glutes really propel us forward in our gait. And I think when people are not utilizing their glutes well, not like, when they talk about like glute amnesia, oh, we need to wake your glutes up. I mean, there's an element of that, it's like they're there, but we need to
Amnesia.
practice using them.
Glute
So
amnesia. I like that.
I think a big problem in especially adult women is glute clenching. They're standing, they're holding their baby, they're cooking, they're doing all this stuff, they're stressed. They're actually just like hanging on for dear life all the time.
Mm.
So that actually is just as bad because you're creating a lot of tension in a muscle group. It's never getting a break, but it's also not strong. A tight muscle is a weak muscle. So we need them to fully relax. We need that hip to gently drop down so that we're really sitting back into a full range of motion. So when we come back up, we have that glute fully eccentrically, lengthening
Mhm.
and then fully contracting up at the top. But I think footwear, like you mentioned, is a big, or lack thereof, barefoot, is really helpful because that big toe having space and being able to push off properly is actually the chain reaction, the first part of our gait that allows that hip flexor to lengthen, the glute to kind of pull us back and keeps us from overusing our back and knees at every step.
When you say strong hips, what muscle groups is included in that to make a strong hip? Is that
It's a
glute?
lot. There's hip rotators. A lot of people have a lot of tightness in their hip rotators, internally rotating, externally
Yeah.
rotating. They're tight, but they also are not exercising them. And so just using all planes of motion, being able to stand on one leg and rotate,
Sounds like
kicking.
KOMA.
There's so many benefits. I mean, every movement I'm watching my kiddo do here, I'm like, that's great. That's
And
great. We
we'll
need
we'll
more of
definitely
that.
get into that. So last thing I want to mention is, am I correct here with this concept that the joints were not made to just absorb all force? The muscles around the joint is there to protect the joint. Is that correct?
I would say so. And different joints have different capacities. Like the shoulder and the hip are similar in that they're a ball and socket joint. They have a lot more muscles connecting to them. They have a
Mhm.
lot more ligaments there. They're meant to be less stable, more mobile. The hip
Okay.
and the shoulder, you could imagine going in a
Right.
complete circle. Other joints are made a little bit more for impact, like the sacrum that attaches our pelvis
Yep.
to our spine.
Mhm.
That is a little bit more of a shock absorber. But then we kind of struggle with it being stiff and tight. We want flexibility, and that's again where kind of the glutes and hip rotators come in. Those hip rotators attach at the sacrum and at our pelvic floor and through our right under our glutes. We have the piriformis, sciatic pain. I mean, about 16% of people, that sciatic nerve runs right through the piriformis, and for others, it's underneath it. And that can
I deal
be
with this every day,
sometimes
literally.
the piriformis tightness
Yep.
on
Yep.
its own can be a main trigger of
Yep.
sciatic pain. Sometimes it's coming right from the discs, and you have to have a good assessment to figure out where that's coming from. But yeah, there's so many factors, and I think there's a lot that attaches there, and we want to, again, mobility but strength. Same with the hip flexors. You want to have mobile muscles that are ready to stretch and move. But if you're sitting a lot, you're likely tight and weak in your hip flexors.
Mm.
You're likely not going to be able to do a really nice straight leg raise with good control, or sitting, lift your leg up and hold it for 10 seconds without shaking. So that's just not that that's like the gold star test, just an example. So I think that just has to be a balance. So you have fine movements that will do both, which I mean, you guys have a pretty good mix.
Would you say that stronger muscles are more flexible?
Ooh.
Can be more flexible, can lengthen more because they're stronger?
Well, I just go back to thinking about that guy in the gym who's like, mainly doing biceps and shoulders. If he's, you know,
If he's maybe not training where he's lengthening and strengthening, meaning he's going to the fullest stretch
right.
and then
And in different
contracting.
planes, or is it mainly here in front and it's fast and it's pump, pump, pump? are you really strong here? Well, yeah, you could hold something like this for a long time, but are you really
Functionally strong. Yeah. That's my goal is with my knee, my back is I just try to get those surrounding muscles as strong as possible. So then when I'm jumping and pivoting all that stuff, then I can absorb the movement. So it's not going straight to the knee. So we'll see, knock on wood. I have to say, and we're getting into KOMA now, is you actually, let's go to the shoe thing, because you were talking about the shoes. Are you in favor of barefoot shoes?
I am. I early on when I started working as a PTA, I worked with a guy who was making orthotics for our patients, and I even got some for myself. They were real thick, real like huge support. And I thought it was better for a while, and then I just eventually shifted towards. I feel like my feet need to move. I feel like they're just locked in here, and I started to shift towards more flexible sole, wider toe box. And so my perspective has really changed. I mean, years ago, I would have been like, everyone needs more support. You gotta put this in your shoe and you gotta wear it all the time. And
Were you
now
gonna
I'm
sleep
like,
in it?
you know what?
Yeah.
For anything, whether orthotics or barefoot, you got to ease into it.
Yeah.
If you have plantar fasciitis and you want to try to go to Europe and in your barefoot shoes, like, sorry, it's not going to happen. But you can work towards a more flexible sole. There's a lot of options now. I mean, even on Amazon for less commitment, less cost for a barefoot shoe. But I think it's helpful. But mainly, here's why. The midfoot needs to be really flexible. We need to be able to roll off of that and push off our big toe. A lot of people imagine someone with bunions, that toe is angling inwards. It's not going to really move through the center of the joint. It's going to you're kind of roll off the side. You're not going to have good flexibility there. And in general, the toes need space and to kind of splay. And so I love anything that is done barefoot. I think when you were talking about people in tribes, I mean, they're on rocky, uneven terrain, and they're strengthening all parts of their legs, feet, ankles, and foot by doing so. So just naturally, I think you can build up really good strength and mobility. Again, like I said, balance throughout the whole body just by being barefoot and walking on different terrain, things like that. But do I recommend running barefoot on concrete when you've been a runner with great shoes, supportive shoes? No. But I do think there's a lot of benefit to barefoot shoes.
It's funny because there's this whole fear about ChatGPT and AI basically killing us eventually and becoming like the scenes that you see in Terminator. But I would say that's not what we should be fearing. We should already fear it now. Not AI, but specifically technology and convenience. I think technology and convenience is already killing us now because we have the ability to transport from one place to another without walking. So all we do is get into our containers and then we just move. Like, it's like that cartoon back in the day. I don't know. It's hilarious where it's this overweight person just sitting there and everything is being brought to him. We're living in that. But that's not what we were made to do. We were made to move our bodies. If we were not made to move our bodies, then why is it that we can move them in such amazing ways?
Right. And
for what? Nothing?
Such a great design. Again, why do all our joints have different capacities and different movements? There's just such a good design behind it with what each joint is made to do and the variety of movements we can do. We're not just in this one plane. We're not robotic. Why?
Right.
There's a reason.
We weren't born to just put our hands on a keyboard and just move our fingers all day and look at a screen, right?
Yeah.
We were made so then we can move in many different ways. But I would say, again, convenience is killing us. It's always choosing the easy way out. The easiest, fastest way to do things is always going to have a consequence, right? So when you can, for example, walk to the store instead of drive, do it. Because that's just going to be better for you overall. Yeah, it'll take a little bit more time, but I think that's going to be the long-term better choice.
How do you think we do that in a fast-paced world with a family? What does that look like for you? Do you have good
Yeah,
suggestions?
so For example, my son's autistic. We have this oversized kind of carriage thing, and I push him in my walk. So it's 2 in 1. And he's calm. Like that's what calms him. And I'll do that. I'll get on a bike, I pull him on it. And I do this almost daily now during the summer because we didn't even talk about this, the importance of sunlight.
Mm.
We're sitting indoors all day long, and we wonder why our vitamin D levels are at like 2.
Right.
You got to get sun. Like that's how we were made. It's like Superman. We need sun for the ability to produce vitamin D, right? So it's just, I think going back to that question of how do you do that with a busy life, you just have to make it a priority, right? You turn the TV off, you give up some of the other things that we think are going to give us joy right now. But in reality, it's going to, it'll subside very quickly after you're done with it. High priority, make it a high priority item and just make it happen. And get the kids involved. They need it too. Going back to the kids.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. These kids today that come in, so uncoordinated. So uncoordinated, and specifically with basic things such as crawling
100%.
and being able to, stretch with one left arm, and then the right leg is coming up at the same time, and then you repeat, and then you switch.
And to even keep their back, to even keep their knees bent, arms down without going into a bear crawl or collapsing, or their head is everywhere.
It's like an army crawl.
And that goes back to that, like STNR is the reflex more associated with that. When our head comes up, we stretch out. When our head goes down, we flex in. Like at an infant level, that's what that is. But just being able to find where your pelvis, that you can move it.
Yeah.
And that when your head does this, it does that. There's a lot there. I don't think kids are getting that. And the difference with that is kids don't know we know we need movement, and it's just hard to do it. Kids don't even know how much they need what we're trying to give them.
Right. And if you give them a choice, right? You give them a choice, what are they going to choose?
Oh, let's
iPad.
watch a TV show. Yeah.
Yeah. Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and or the iPad, or both at the same time, right? And that is our jobs as parents to say, no, we're done. 20 minutes is enough for today. Get outside, let's go together, and then run in the grass. Even my son, who is very sensitive, right? Sensitive with all his sensory stuff. But just recently, I got him to run around in the grass.
So
that's like the first time ever. Wow. I couldn't believe it. Now he just runs back and forth in the lawn as I'm kind of just shooting around on the basketball goal. And I'm like, finally. But then I've seen studies also with dirt and all the, benefits of that, grounding.
Yes.
But how old are your kids that you have now? You have 2, right?
Zeke's 5. Zeke will be 6 in October, and Remy will be 3 in August.
How did you hear about KOMA?
MJ, Lisa, Zoe.
Oh, they were on the show too.
Yes, I was just talking to MJ.
Yeah.
And then my friend Madison, she signed her son up like maybe a month before. And I was like, you know what? Having a peer in his class is a big game changer, because then it's a little bit less of, Mom wants you to do this, and this is going to be good for you. Which is true.
Yes.
But less exciting for a 5-year-old.
Yes.
So anyway, once I got on your website and I started seeing, hey, is your kid a little bit like this? And I was like, all right, we're doing it.
That's funny. Some people might read that and go, what? That's not my kid at all.
No, I can see the different. I have such a capable kid. But I can just see in him, he'll get just kind of defeated by things and quit easily. Think he can't do something before he starts. Kind of this fearful, not sure if I can do it well, so I'm not going to try kind of, I guess. So I don't know, but I saw that just acting silly under pressure. I thought, you know what? I think a lot of this is something that we could benefit from. So
what made you decide? Actually, when you did the first intro, what was your first? Did you remember any first impressions that you had?
I loved the smile on his face. He, at that point when he was starting, was pretty into superhero-like stuff, right? So he, I think, was telling Miss Galetti something about one of his superhero skills. And I remember her saying something about she was impressed, and then she also made sure to include how much we have to use our power under control, right? And how much we use our strength with control. So we're not moving when we shouldn't be moving. We're not hitting when we shouldn't be hitting, right? So I just liked the approach. I like strength under control, and let's use our body for good purpose and also have self-control.
Getting into like the coordination, body awareness, and kind of the movements that you're seeing in class, did any of them stand out that you
Yes, army crawling, crawling in general, crab walking, duck walking. I mean, with Zeke, I had noticed, he has a lot of trouble squatting real nicely at the end there because he definitely does tuck the
Yeah,
pelvis. I mean, a
that's
lot
so common.
and shift back. So
Yeah.
tight
You're saying
calves.
pelvis tucks backwards.
Yeah, like tucks under,
Yeah,
like he can't keep a nice neutral spine
yeah.
with that. And some of that's flexibility, but how do kids get inflexible to begin with, right? Adults, I think it's a little easier. We have this lack of movement, but for kids, I think there's some things there that kind of predispose them to, well, how'd you choose that movement pattern? Why'd your brain go to that? Right. So that's where I think starting early with movement is so good. So I love seeing his ankle mobility improve, seeing him have a little more control over what his head and pelvis are doing with movements. And it really is so functional. I mean, kids have got to be able to squat, they've got to be able to balance on one leg, they should be able to jump, run. I think every kid just needs to be able to do all of those things.
Do you see any benefits in kicking?
Oh, yeah. So, like the hip rotator stuff we were talking about, single leg balance, just stability, splaying the toes and a slight grip, you actually create an arch when you do that. So you're actually strengthening you're actually strengthening the arch of your foot. So that's where, like, if we haven't done that our whole life and we're walking on hard floors most of the time in rigid shoes, yeah, you're gonna need arch support. But if you can build that from a young age, have flexible shoes, splay the toes, grip, stand on one leg, kick. You're going to have so much stability through that leg, and that arch is going to really kind of build itself.
I have, first off, frog feet, like 4E plus. It's so hard for me to find shoes, and I have the highest arch, and I attribute it to martial arts and always being barefoot. Always being barefoot, even when I started when I was 3 years old. Now I hate wearing shoes unless I have to, like running on hard surfaces, playing basketball. But other than that, I'm always barefoot. And I also believe that the kicking and the barefoot training and especially being on one leg and doing things has helped me only roll my ankle, knock on wood here before I say this to the public. I've only rolled my ankle one time in my entire life. And
Yeah, very impressive.
the only reason why I tore my ACL is because I went to KU and gained 15 pounds, came back, and I was so out of shape. And I tried to do a jump kick that I didn't train for a long time. And like in your mind, you're like, oh, I can do this. And I didn't get as high as I should have. And I landed early and then my knee came out. But going back to what you're talking about, there's studies that show that kids that are at least wearing shoes where their toes are able to kind of splay out, like you said, they actually have higher arches than keeping them in shoes all the time. Why is the arch so important?
There's a lot of debate on, well, you don't want to have too high of an arch because then we need to build up the shoe to make sure it meets you, and you don't want to have too flat of a foot. The concern with a lack of an arch is, you're more likely to pronate or roll that foot inward.
Yeah.
The center, the inside ankle, the inside knee, the inside hip. Essentially, there's just a lot of malalignment that can happen at that point. You see people with their knees in. However, a lot of that, yes, comes from the ankle and foot, but a lot of that comes from the hips. The hips are really what pull the knees out to more neutral alignment. But it all plays together because if you're pronated, you're having to work so much harder.
Pronated
To have
means
that
inwards.
inwards.
Feet falling inwards.
Right, falling inwards
Yeah.
onto that
Because the arch is not able to keep it up flat
right.
and
But
centered.
I would say, I mean, one of the hugest benefits of having a good arch is that your midfoot, your entire foot supported. And when you go to push off, you're just going to have a great setup running and even just walking. If your gait is good, your hips and your back feel great. I actually use these toe separators sometimes they're like silicone. I use them between my toes and just to like get my toes spread out so I'm walking better. I do have very squished toes and my big toe is angled in. Like just genetically, many people in my family have had that kind of bunion like.
Like a ballerina, right?
Yeah, I guess so. So just I use those toe separators, and man, if I'm stiff in my hips or my back and I walk around my house or do cleaning or whatever with the toe separators in, my gait is, I mean, I have a long stride, my hips get loose, my back feels great because I've just set my body up for success
Mm.
with that at the foot. So I think the arch is important. The foot splay is important just for that. It's the first chain reaction of
What is
our.
a gait? You keep saying
Oh
gait. What does that
yes,
mean?
gait is essentially how we walk. It's like the mechanics of, like you see someone with a limp, or maybe they're real weak in one side, so they'll kind of overextend. Well, the effects of one of those things on our entire gait is such that you can really see, well, they sway to the left when they do that. Oh, that's because of this weak, this. So our gait is the mechanics of how we walk, and we want to see symmetry. We want to see normal um, variations of normal, but we essentially want, yeah, symmetry with that. And we want to see, are they pushing off here when they're in their mid stance, like when they're on the leg they're standing on and about to push off of? What's happening at the body? Does their hip drop? That's weakness on that side. So that right hip might drop. Well, that's that left hip at the pelvis that's weak, that's letting this right side drop. So
Mm.
we're looking at all these things when we assess someone's gait.
What challenges um, did you have, or did you see in Zeke before he started at KOMA?
So this is a good question. I think probably the biggest one is just kind of this mindset of defeat. It's kind of fixed mindset that he has. I think that, I mean, like I said, he's such a capable kid, and I kind of see him crushed under the weight of this mindset, thinking that things are just, well, this is too hard. And it just relates to what it's kind of like the preferred activity type of my thing of like kids want to do what they want to do. They don't want to do what they don't want to do, right? They
Mm.
need to learn self-discipline, and you can't always teach that just by talking at them. They have to learn that they can do hard things. And that has been probably the biggest challenge. Um, just daily activities that feel hard for him, and having to boost him up and also require him to do them without so much help you
Mm.
know? And it wasn't always like this. I don't know what changed, but, when he was a young toddler, I mean, he just, wow, so capable, so mature, so this, so conversational, so this. And, I think there comes a point when I probably did too much for him. So kind of having to step back and
Kind of the lawnmower approach. Have you heard of that?
to explain it.
So that means when the parent basically lawnmowers over all obstacles and challenges for the kid so they don't have to really struggle.
Yeah. And it's very possible. I mean, man, those COVID years, I don't remember much of them. Those were
Yeah.
some hard years. But with having a new first kid. But yeah, I probably did. It's very easy as a mom to want to remove obstacles, especially if you find yourself doing that so that your kid won't be defiant or need training. Well, let me make it easier for you to do what I said, right? And I see that a lot. So coming back to that, just being humble, like, yeah, I did that.
Oh, I can guarantee you right now, we have it on camera here. You keep him here for at least 2.5, 3 years, that will improve dramatically. I've seen it over and over and over again. We've taught thousands of kids. It's just the parent has to be committed.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, because there's going to be times he doesn't want to come to class and you still have to make him. The same thing I had to do with my daughter. And it's not fun. It's painful. It sucks. But just keeping that long-term view, oh my goodness. This is why we exist, for boys like Zeke, just like this.
Mhm.
Like everything you said, seeing this over and over again. But isn't this what our country is like right now? It's
Yeah.
like if things get hard, we just go, oh, it's too hard.
Yes.
It's because of the convenience.
Right.
Everything's so easy.
Well, and it's easy to just put our kids in activities that seem easy for them. And that
Correct.
they think they're gonna just feel good doing. And that may be okay for now, but when he's older, he's gonna face adversity at some point. And so how is he gonna have the tools to work through that? So I actually already am at that point because I've been waiting for him to get so excited to come. And I will tell you, when he is here, 100% engaged, the whole class, smile on his face, focused, but he is mentally exhausted. And I think he has to amp himself up. And so he's already kind of like, whoa, how long are we doing this? And I'm like, well, buddy, I just signed you up for We're going to be doing it till May, at least. We're here. We're doing it. So we're already there. And I'm just, you know what? I know what types of things he might face in his life, and he doesn't. And so you're right. I just had to decide to be committed to it.
100% yes. And you will not regret it. Here's the deal. Let's say he loves soccer. Let's say he loves basketball. Let's say he loves some other activity, right? Let's say he does. There's not going to be time that he doesn't. There's not going to be a time where now all of a sudden the game gets harder and the players get better.
Right.
And now that he has to actually like go through some failure, what are you going to do then? He's going to want to quit.
Yeah.
But you can't let him. But those are those moments as parents, we've got to dig our heels in and use our adult brains and go, no, you're good. And then this is what I was talking about is defining what the exit ramps are. When are those exit ramps? Meaning, when can we quit? Not just whenever we feel like it, it's when. Like we have to have that predetermined when we're still in that mindset of, I love this. All right, for example, black belt's very easy for us, right? All right, we're going to start, and then you're doing it until you get your black belt. Once we hit black belt, then we can discuss if we should stop or not. But until then, there's no exit ramps. That has to happen because if it doesn't, and we just go class by class, life gets at us and we get so emotional. The emotions take over, and then we make excuses and we justify it. Oh, I don't want to force him because, it's going to destroy his self-esteem, whatever. If you don't make that commitment, it'll overtake you. And then you look back and you'll regret it. I've seen this so many times over and over again. Have you seen any improvements or changes after he started?
I will say I definitely have noticed his confidence improve, specifically with physical abilities. He'll verbalize, oh, I could do that. That's easy for me. Kind of a little bit of little boy pride, just like a little bit of like, okay, well, actually, that's a superhero flying off the building, right? Maybe not point reality, but no, but specifically, I'm seeing him take bigger jumps, bigger risks, just more trust in his ability, which is great. I want him to have that because the more risk taking he can do safely, at a time where I'm around, better to take risks when he can learn how his body adjusts to it. So I love that. I love when he comes home and shows me movements he's done. I'm trying to tie this in to what he's struggling with. So he was showing the burpee that he learned. And I was like, wow, you can do a burpee. And you can pay attention throughout the entire class, even though that takes a lot of focus. Like you can do hard things. You could do hard things because he just does not believe it yet, I think. He has so much fun when he's here. So it's great to see that. I have no doubts, but he has to see it for himself, I think. So maybe at his belt assessment.
How would you describe the instructors here?
Oh, wow. Intentional. I love how they spend their time giving feedback. There's no like, I'm tired of talking. I'm going to just let them do their thing and I'll watch. There's none of that. It's always very focused, intentional. They demand a respect without talking at the kids. There's just a good understanding of authority. And I love that. Yeah. I love the ratio. I love how they split into groups and have, 3 or 4 of them in a line and they're learning a new skill that way. It takes the pressure off without taking the responsibility off the kid too. With a big group, it's easy to hide.
Right.
Whether you're really actually learning it well. So I love that. And I love how they're constantly using every moment they have to give positive feedback. And it's not degrading and it's not negative, but it's, pointed. It's specific.
How is KOMA different than other activities, do you think?
I think this goes back to what we were talking about, other sports and things. I think a lot of other activities are just naturally focused on the skill set you're good at, and they're a lot less growth focused. And I think KOMA is a lot more character and growth focused. So there's an equal propensity for growth and growth here, because it's not focused on, oh, well, you're already kind of good at this activity, so you're gonna enjoy it. So that's what I like about it, because that's what I think my kid needs. If he thinks that getting dressed every day is hard, why would I expect that any sport would feel easy like you were saying at some point? He's like, why don't we just meet it head on? Let's go do the hard thing. So, but he has enjoyed it.
If a friend asked you whether they should try KOMA for their child, what would you say?
I would say do it, see how much your kid loves it. And if they don't immediately love it, then they need it.
So either way, do it.
Either way, do it. Yes, I think your instructors are really intentional. I think they're great. I think there's not one I've seen or met that I haven't loved. I think you guys do a really good job with, training and having core values that just match up with what's needed. Yeah, I think it's been really fantastic. I think that this is what most kids need. I think there's a lot of things that we sign our kids up for fun and for their enjoyment. And I think that this is both that and life skills.
Mm. And then after you have your third child, then we'll see you in class 2.
I know. You know what, man? I sure wanted to go this summer, but I just had not figured out a time yet, since Remy couldn't be here at the same time yet.
I get it. No, I get
But
it. You got a young
I would
family.
love that.
It's hard.
Yeah.
You 5, 3, right?
5 and 2 right now,
2.
almost 6 and 3.
Oh, wow.
They'll all be 3 years.
You got a
apart.
busy house.
Yeah,
Busy house.
It's all good.
Mrs. Dorsett, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.